So a while back, I said that I was not going to talk about Julia Wendell Wendlet Faustina, aka the girl who claimed that she could be Madeleine McCann. Well, here we are, and we're going to talk about her. There's been some interesting developments this week, and before we dive in, I want to preface that these are my opinions based off of things that both Julia and her sponsor, Dr. Fia Johansson, have said or presented to the media. First things first, she did an interview on Dr. Phil. Now, the interview itself wasn't that interesting. No new revelations, no new evidence was presented. They pretty much just reiterated everything that has already been published or that they've talked about in previous interviews or in the media. But there is one thing that is ingrained into my mind. And that one thing is that Julia sat up on that stage holding a teddy bear. Now, you may ask why that bothers me. Well, if we go back and look at other interviews that Kate McCann has done, she is holding Madeleine's teddy bear. And to me, this was just a cheap ploy to pull at the heartstrings of the world. Like, hey, look at me. I think I'm Madeleine and I'm holding a teddy bear like her mom had that she used to have. So it just doesn't sit well with me is what I'm trying to get at. So after the show, Fia went on this huge tirade on her Instagram Live. And she pretty much said that Dr. Phil didn't give her the opportunity to speak, that he didn't address her directly, that he diminished or minimalized her education and her doctorate that she has, and just didn't use her to her full potential. She claimed that they weren't aware of the two experts that Dr. Phil was going to have on after he was done talking with Julia, that they weren't allowed to talk to them, that everything was just rushed. They were just rushed out of the back when they were done with their piece. But the part of her rant that really bothered me was when she said that Dr. Phil was only using Julia's story to make money. Isn't that what she's doing? She's promoting Julia, and by doing this, she's being interviewed and having all of these media outlets reach out to her and being on Dr. Phil. It seems like she's exploiting Julia's story for money as well. Now, again, just my opinion. And then she sums up that this was Dr. Phil's last episode and he wanted it to be like this big grand finale episode, so he was going to have Julia on there. And then he was going to go into retirement. Which is odd because after Julia's episode, he was filming more episodes. So the information of Dr. Phil retiring, I don't know where that came from, but not true. Now, later this week was when we got the big bombshell. Fia went on live with a fellow TikToker and out of the blue just said, I 100% believe that Julia's mother is actually her birth mother. Now, her father, on the other hand, not so sure about. We're waiting for the DNA evidence to come back. If you knew that Julia's mother was her birth mother, then why are we trying to reach out to the McCanns? I'm so confused. Like, what are we doing here? For somebody who says they have the best interests of Julia in mind, she went on to say some not great things about her. She said that she's messy, she's always late, and that's why they miss appointments. She misplaces her stuff all the time. She can't remember where she put stuff. She doesn't want to change out of her pajamas. She eats like 10 boxes of chocolates a day. Is just not taking care of herself. And just not really nice things. And she said that nobody really wants to be around her because she can be aggressive, but then at sometimes she can be sweet. I feel like if you are truly advocating for someone who has gone through what Julia claims she has gone through, these things would not be something that you would want to share. You would only be advocating for the best for her. So that just kind of like threw me for a loop and made me start thinking that she's only in this for the money. Like she's monetizing off of Julia's story. She never really had the best interests at heart, which again, just my opinion based off of these latest tidbits that she's been sharing on her lives. And lastly, today she went on live to say that 4 police officers showed up to her house after this journalist got into Julia's head and told her to call the police. And Julia called them and said that she's being held captive against her will, and all she wants to do is go back to Poland, and Fia is not allowing her to leave the house. But then when the police showed up, she's like, no, I actually want to be here. Like, I'm not here against my will. So what is happening? All I want to know is what is happening, and is Julia safe? Does Fia really have her best interests at heart now that we know that she's not Madeleine McCann, because we know that her mother is really her mother? Where is this all gonna go? What's the end game? I just feel like it's only gonna end up with Julia getting hurt. And in the end, she's a troubled young woman who just wants to know where she's from. She suffers from mental health issues. She needs help. And it feels like Fia is leading her down this path that there's really no return. Everybody's going to remember her as this girl who makes up things for fame in the media. I'm sorry this was a long video, but there was a lot to discuss. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. And as always, I'll see you next time.